Hello, everyone, and welcome back to In Real Time. It has been a hot minute since we uploaded the last episode. It has been a while, but we are excited to be back. We have a very exciting episode ahead of us. We have a lot to talk about. But first, how does it feel to be back, Jacob? How do you feel recording another episode right now? It's been a while.
It's very nice to have a breath of fresh air in my schedule to be able to actually do this. So that's why we're able to like bring this back. It is nice. I
Woo.
love talking movies, and I know you love talking movies, and we love
Yes,
talking movies
sir.
to people. So it's enjoy. I'm very happy to be doing this again.
Yeah, we kind of missed out on a lot of movie talk, especially over the summer seasons. For anyone wondering, yes, we both loved Oppenheimer and Barbie.
Yes, yes,
Trying to see what else we need to catch up on here. Summer movie season kind of flew by. There were genuine surprises here and there. Some things that were not so great, but overall, great movie season. A lot of awards contenders. So we'll be able to discuss those more in depth when award season comes around, which is actually not that far away. Believe it or not, it's only in a couple of months because all the Oscar bait movies are suddenly releasing in fall festivals. So it'll be around the corner before we know it. But for today's episode, we decided to do a little fun thing to be back in the swing of things. We're going to talk about box office from the last week because there's a lot to discuss because a certain musician released a movie this weekend. Little indie musician. I don't know if you've heard of her. Her name is Taylor Swift. So we're going to talk about that and all these other movies at the box office. We're also going to talk about trailers that have dropped, our thoughts
yep.
on them, whether we're looking forward to them or not. And also we're going to end off with the Letterboxd last four watched as always. So to get in the swing of things this episode, let's talk about box office first. I'm sure the elephant in the room everyone's wondering about is Taylor Swift, the Eras Tour, the
Yes,
concert
sir.
movie about hers truly, Taylor Swift. It made $96 million in its opening weekend. Not a shocker, especially after I saw the AMC record being set on like the biggest pre-sale for tickets. Also checking my local AMC on the Fandango app and seeing like the check seat feature was all grayed out. Did you expect that big, or were you expecting bigger or smaller? I know some people were expecting a little bit bigger for some reason, but like I think that's a perfectly acceptable number.
Yeah, I think honestly that's right about where it was at. As a movie theater employee, I'm going to out myself here. As a movie theater employee, my GM was talking to me about how the kind of like the we get like country maps of like each big movie release to see if like what's hot or not, and mostly like the big red, like the hot states were the Midwest and Pennsylvania, which is obviously like on paper, duh, but like big states like New York City, LA were very not like this movie was not popping in NY and LA. So like to have it
Hmm.
just basic 93 million, like under 100 million, didn't really shock me that much, even though some people thought it could reach 100 million. I didn't necessarily think so. But to all the people that listen to this, possibly that work in a movie theater along with me, Godspeed for getting through the first weekend. I know it's probably hell for a lot of you, like it was for me at least. So good job, and three more weekends to go. So yeah,
Yeah. So I saw all the fallout on Twitter. It seemed everything that I scrolled through was just videos of teenage girls dancing around their seats and
yeah,
screaming.
hmm
As someone who watches movies a lot, I understand that's a concert film. People might do that. However, I think this is an instance where it has gotten to the point where it's getting a little bit extreme. I went to see Stop Making Sense, as you did, Jacob, in IMAX when A24 re-released it a few months ago. And we both kind of noted that no one did that during Stop Making Sense. They danced in their
nope,
seat. They kind of mouthed the words, but like it was kind of a reverent still, like, oh, we're watching a movie. We're
exactly.
not at a concert. I
Right.
think there becomes an argument whether or not like concert films can have that kind of reaction. What do you think personally should be the reaction? Do you think people should be able to dance and like stand and like jump around and dance, or do you think that it should be more like other concert films in the past?
I mean, I feel like I hate to say it like this, but like I feel like this concert film is not really like other concert films that like we know and watch in a way. Like this movie, well, concert film, I guess, is literally just made for people to like sing along and
Mm-hmm.
dance in a way. And I feel like Stop Making Sense, a lot of other music docs that I've watched, while yes, it is a concert, it is more shot like a film. Like it's like,
Yeah.
like editing choices, blocking, stuff like that. And with Taylor, this was just literally her concert being recorded at SoFi. Like it wasn't really a lot to it. Like obviously there was certain blocking stuff that they had to do with cameras, but like I feel like for this, obviously, it was kind of understandable with that reaction, but in general, I believe like it's a movie theater. Like it's not a concert venue. You and I have talked about this off camera.
Hmm.
The etiquette for a movie theater, I feel like should be like still going. This is kind of an outlier, but like for other stuff like this in the future, I hope people dial it back a little bit because I could tell from this past weekend that a lot of these people haven't been to a movie theater in a long time and do not know a lot of movie theater etiquette and or just how to act, which was kind of crazy. But you know, it is what it is. I think overall we should just the movie theater etiquette should be the staple of anything, regardless of its if it's a concert or if it's just a small basic movie. I like leaving it as is.
I agree with that. And I'm not going to lie, seeing those videos on Twitter made me laugh. There's
Yeah,
one that I saw that's going viral of like a group of people in a circle swinging their arms around. And the caption was, "It's a cruel midsummer." And I almost died laughing at that. I was like, oh my gosh, bro, that's so crazy. But I guess if it gets people back to theater, I'm not going
right.
to argue with that. I mean, it's proof, as you will see in a minute. The other films on this list that released in the past few weeks have not been doing as well as this film did.
Not at
So it's a
all.
true testament to, I guess, Taylor Swift's artistry that she can actually attract a crowd back to the movie theater. And I
It's
think
true.
it's this and a bunch of other films that have made this type of opening, like Barbie
Yep.
and other films before it, that really prove that the argument that movie theaters are dying is not necessarily the case.
Correct.
I know people like to say after COVID, attendance kind of dropped off, which in some respects it did in the first few years. But I think that now we're back in an era where a lot of people, the excuse that most studios have when movies don't make a lot of money, like some of these in upcoming discussion, is
Mhm.
that people just don't want to go back out after COVID. They just want to
Right.
stay and like stream stuff. But like audiences are getting smarter. They're not going to go see movies that look lazily made. They're not going to see movies that look stupid. They're going to see stuff that
Correct.
they're interested in. And I
Yep.
think this is definitely one of those interesting things.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy for this film and for people who liked it. Once again, I'm not a Taylor Swift fan. I'm not seeing this movie, but I
Right.
understand that a lot of people do like it. So good on you for enjoying it and having a good time. And yeah, hot tip:
Absolutely.
if you want to go see it without the crowd, probably go see it during the weekdays. I think weekends are going to be the heaviest hitter for that.
Actually, unfortunately, this is only a weekend movie. It only
Is it
plays
actually?
Thursday to Sunday. Yeah, they don't. It doesn't play during the week. It's only
That's
for 4
crazy.
weekends. So Thursday to Sunday, the next 3 weeks, three
Oh,
weekends.
I thought it was like 4 weeks straight. That's crazy.
No, yeah. So like during the
That would
week,
suck.
right now until Killers comes out this coming Thursday, The Exorcist is in IMAX and Dolby during the week, which we will talk about in a few minutes. But I just thought that's kind of funny the
Yeah.
contrast. But yeah, you go on ahead.
Yeah. So speaking of movies that might not have been well performing as Taylor Swift did, we have The Creator, which released a few weeks ago, made through $32 million on a budget of $80 million. This is once again Gareth Edwards' new film. He made Rogue One, which a lot of people like, even non-Star Wars fans think it's a great film. I
Yep.
haven't seen that film, but I know a lot of people love it.
Mm,
Um, so I didn't see The Creator yet. I really wanted to, but there was just something about, scheduling. Whenever I go to the movies, I usually go during weekdays when like I'm in between stuff that I have going on. Creator is like over 2 hours, so I was
yeah,
like, I can't really fit that in. So I'm trying to see it at some point. It'll probably come to streaming soon, if I had to guess, because they're gonna yank that thing out of theaters as fast as possible.
true.
But what do you think of this performance at the box office in regards to a lot of the argument about this film is like originality in Hollywood and like, oh, original concepts are dying? What do you say to that?
I've, I've seen a lot of people kind of not bash, but like film Twitter mostly has been talking about like, yes, you original films like need to be a thing. Like it needs to be keep going to make like movies and movie theaters like a possibility, but you don't have to go see every original movie. Considering what I've heard about this movie is that it's just fine.
Yeah,
Like I understand the concept of everybody's like, even if it's bad, go out and support it because that'll show like, but like that's just kind of I don't get that narrative. Like I don't get that narrative at all. Like
yeah,
even if it's original, like even with Marvel or like Star Wars, like if I hear like a Star Wars movie, like I haven't watched a Star Wars project in like 2.5 years, and I used to love Star Wars,
hmm,
but like if I hear it's bad, I'm not going to give it my time of day. Just like with Marvel and just like anything original. So I feel like people can't really wrap their head around that around original properties, and it kind of makes me upset. And not saying that I didn't like. I also wanted a chance to see this as well. I just haven't had time, like a schedule. But also, when I've had time, I guess I haven't been yearning to go see it, considering it's just been a lot of people that I know and trust have said it's just fine, and I
Yeah.
don't get necessarily kind of want to sit through that as well. So it just depends on the person. But I wish the narrative of just go see every original film kind of had a different annotation and meaning to it, because it's kind of getting annoying a little bit.
Yeah. And speaking of around 30 million budget on an 85 million, or 30 million gross on an around 80 million budget, it actually performed close to what The Exorcist is now performing at, which is Exorcist is currently sitting at a $30 million budget, or an 30 million gross on an 85 million budget, excuse me. And I read somewhere that Jason Blum bought the rights to this franchise for like 400 million, which is absolutely ridiculous. And it just really blows my mind that people like that have not. I mean, Jason Blum touches anything he wants to get money off of. That's why he milks Conjuring movies. That's why he milks. He's trying to do something with Five Nights at Freddy's. I think
Yeah,
though that the fact that they're releasing that on Peacock on the same day kind of tells me that they don't have faith in that movie.
right.
But I do think that this was kind of a mistake. I think you should let classics like this rest. You actually saw this though. I didn't see it. I'm not a horror
Yeah,
fan. So what
yeah.
did you think of the movie, and do you think that like gross is warranted?
Um, I'm gonna be very blunt when I talk about this, and I hope this doesn't deter the casual horror fans if you're listening, because like if you're a casual horror fan, you'll probably, I wouldn't say love this, but you'll enjoy it. But for me, I thought this was god awful. And the reason being is because it is one of those things where the first act is sets up such cool original ideas that if it wasn't connected to an IP or a franchise or like this legacy sequel shit that we're getting, that it would be, the movie itself would have been way better. Like the first act, awesome, sets up like all these different ideas about different religions, how that can play effect. Like it doesn't have to just be Catholic exorcism. Like each religion has different forms of exorcism.
Mm-hmm.
And then as soon as Ellen Burstyn comes in and it becomes an exorcist movie, it becomes awful. Like it hits every trope of like literally what The Exorcist made popular in possession
Mm-hmm.
movies. It literally hits every single trope. The pacing goes to minimal. Like the pacing is all over the place, and the atmosphere is just not a thing. Like the original, I don't know. Have you seen? I forget. Have you seen the original or no?
I have not. No.
So like the original is built on just creepy atmosphere and not having to use like jump scares and stuff, and to like be able to like scare you and truly like get you to like jump. And this
Mm-hmm.
one is literally just once it hits the second act on to the exorcism is jump scares or disturbing imagery. And that is not, in my opinion, how a good horror movie should be. And it's a
Yeah.
lot of people's criticisms over the past 5 to 7 years with this new, like, not the elevated horror, because there's some horror that's doing it right, but like the basic jump scare horror stuff, people do not want anymore. And I'm just shocked because Jason Blum has produced some awesome horror movies for like the past like decade,
Yeah.
and with like the arguably what was once the scariest movie of all time, he falls into every single trope of what makes a horror movie not good, which blew my mind. And you just get bored because it just hits you over and over again with the same stuff, and I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing here anymore. So why,
Yeah.
this is why I think like the Rotten Tomatoes score is warranted, the Letterboxd being a 2 out of 5 absolutely warranted, and the box office returns is showing that people don't want to see the same schlock of horror, just jump scare over and over. Like do something different, and people will love it. And that's why I think it's no one's coming to see this, because that and word of mouth has just been horrendous. So like it's a lot of different things, but just not what you want for a $400 million IP property that you have now.
Yeah.
So it just kind of blows my mind again, like you said, that he spent this much, and he has, and this is also a trilogy, confirmed to be a trilogy. So they
Yeah.
have to make all 3 movies if they
Oh
want to
yeah.
even see any money back.
Yeah.
But with this first one just being as bad as it is, like I don't even, like I hate to say it, like I'll probably go watch them anyway, just cause like I get free movies. Let's be real, I get free movies,
Yeah.
so like it kind of works out. But like if I was a casual moviegoer like yourself, or if you don't have like a subscription service, there's no reason to watch any more of these. Like I would not even
No.
go near it. So that's I just think that all of those factors put together puts it to why it's just not making any money at all.
Yeah, and and it was funny because when I went to see movies before the Exorcist released, whenever they played the trailer, like the crowd reaction was just not into it. Like
No,
everyone, whenever the title card popped up, I waited. And like whenever I go to a movie, it's usually a matinee, so there's a lot of elderly people in there because that's the demographic of earlier screenings. And
yep,
all of them were just talking to each other after like the trailer stopped, and they were like, "I'm not seeing that. That's awful." And I'm like, yeah, because it's hard to sell a movie that scared a generation. Because The Exorcist has a connotation around it for like the older generation. Because no one in the older generation really likes that movie because they remember being terrified of it.
correct,
So it's kind of like that mindset when they see a new one, and it kind of like the word of mouth kind of gets bad as a result. That I think kind of hurt this because horror movies in the past few years have done fairly well. Like I
correct.
remember I think it was Smile like last year did
Did
fairly
great.
well at the box office, and it was a fun movie. But like
Yep,
The Exorcist doesn't have the same vibe as other Blumhouse movies where it's like a PG-13 horror movie that like
right.
teenagers can watch. It's more heavy and it's kind of more depressing and dark. So I think that kind of contributed to it as well. And speaking of dark and exciting movies coming up, this week is finally here with Scorsese's newest film, Killers of the Flower Moon. It premiered at
Yes, sir.
Cannes like back in May, and I have been excited for it ever since probably last year. I think I mentioned it in our first like second episode when we talked about like most
Most
anticipated movies.
anticipated.
Yeah, I was like so hyped about this. And it's actually the prediction for a 3-hour drama about the slaughter of the Osage tribe is starting out at around $24 million, which is honestly not quite as bad as I was expecting. I expected a lot lower, to be honest.
Mm,
It's not bad for a Scorsese movie, especially a 3-hour one at that, because most
correct.
audiences, I think that is the thing that most audiences are kind of being persuaded off of is 3-hour run times. We saw that with Avatar, with Babylon, with
Yep.
other movies like that.
Bo is
Um,
afraid.
Bo is Afraid. There we go. Another
Afraid.
one. Uh, so I think this is a solid start. I think it's definitely going to be helped by word of mouth. I think that a lot of people are going to come around to this movie eventually. Are you excited for this? What are your thoughts on this?
Oh yeah, I mean, I love Scorsese like most people in the film circle. I've been excited for this for a very long time. I also feel like the 24 million is kind of like a good benchmark of like that's not over expectations, but like they're giving it enough of like a hype boost because they think like I feel like the industry knows that like yeah, people are going to go see this, but is it going to be the same people over and over, or is it going to be word of mouth? And I think that 24 mil is kind of like a perfect set point.
Yeah.
Um, to be fair though, I feel like also like during while working at the theater and doing guest service and stuff like that, we have like a standee of it like right as you exit the building, and every time I've been out there during that area, there's at least like every other group of people are like, "Oh my god, like that's going to be awesome! Like I can't wait to watch that movie."
Yeah.
Like talk about it as soon as they see that standee, and it's a good thing to see because like it's not just like our dads; it's like people our age that are
Yeah.
like, "Dude, that's going to be awesome," and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yes, like we need this type of word. Like it's the word of mouth of this is already high enough, and it hasn't even come out yet." So I'm thinking like, yeah, like this is going to be really good, and I hope that it pushes it over that 24 mil. But I can understand why they put that line there.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's going to be a really exciting movie, and I know a lot of people that aren't like. I went to high school with a lot of people that like love Scorsese movies. Like
Yep.
Goodfellas was like hanging in their room, like the poster of it. And
Yep.
I think that this is going to be a tougher sell to those casual Scorsese fans because it's not
Absolutely.
another gangster movie. But
Correct.
my personal favorite Scorsese film is Silence, which is not a gangster film either,
Yep.
and that's a phenomenal film. So I have a high expectation for this. I also love westerns and I love things that take place in like western towns, and this is like takes place in one of those, and it just looks like a great film, and I cannot wait for it. And speaking of anticipated films, we have a lot of trailers to discuss that have dropped in the last few
Yes.
weeks.
Yes.
Starting out, I have a list here. I'm going to go down and we can talk about our thoughts on them.
Yeah.
First, I have put on here Argylle, which is the new film directed by Matthew Vaughn, who directed the Kingsman movies, which are a fun time.
Mhm.
It stars Sam Rockwell, Bryce Dallas Howard, Henry Cavill, John Cena, and a whole other bunch of talented people.
Yeah.
It's about a book author who writes spy espionage books concerning an agent named Argylle who is pulled into a national espionage mission when she predicts something happening in her book that actually happens in real life to a government official. Um, so, what are your thoughts on the trailer? I thought it was a very well edited trailer. I think it had a lot of the Kingsman type action that we
Yep.
expect and the humor. Um, I know people are kind of tired out about John Cena in movies. I kind of think that he kind of fits in this kind of campy spy book thing.
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts on this trailer?
Um, I am. I like the Kingsman movies, but I feel like I'm not as high on them as the general consensus. Like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
think they're bad at all. They're just kind of like not my like, which is kind of weird because I love John Wick, but like that hyper violence, like just the way he does it, I don't know. It's
Yeah.
just fine to me. Like it's not over the top, but it's not awful. With this one, I feel like this is like the perfect zone for Matthew Vaughn.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's able to pull in those fantastical elements and literally like, from what my understanding, like the books come to life, or is it like a different
I think
type of? I
it's
forget how the vibe is, but I know it's like the characters. You see the characters, and then you also see real life. Like
yeah,
it's a
yeah.
split, which I think will work really well for him because I feel like he tried to keep the Kingsman movies like really grounded in like historical aspects, and then would just have batshit crazy fight scenes, which kind
Mm-hmm.
of made no sense. But like for the movie, it's awesome. But for this, I feel like this is really his lane, and I think it's really cool that Bryce Dallas Howard leading role. That's not Jurassic Park. That's
Yeah,
kind of cool. Like when I saw her build like second to top, I was like, oh, so she's like, here we go. I just like the
yeah.
cast of this. Henry Cavill's in it also. Um, I've also kind of come around on John Cena. I won't lie. His Peacemaker performance was actually awesome to me.
Yeah,
I feel
yeah,
like that like they like if you find what he's good at and what he can do really well, then he can be a really good actor. Like that kind of like my opinion on Dave Bautista. Like of the people, like if you get him in the right space and the right material, it'll work. And I feel like you said, this John Cena and this campy, fantastical type movie, I feel like will really work for a lot of audiences, and I hope people will go see this. The only thing that kind of struck me as a bad thing was that this comes out in February, which
yeah,
in the past couple of years, March to like January to March has actually been shockingly, surprisingly with good movies filled within it.
yeah.
But like the general theme of like January to beginning of April is kind of like you just drop the not the schlock. I call it the schlock months. Like you
Yeah.
just don't know where to do with it and you just drop it there. So that's really my only concern. But besides that, I'm very excited to watch this and see what the reaction is for it.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that you mentioned like hyper violence because it did remind me sort of Bullet Train when I was watching the trailer. It reminded me of like a David Leitch type film,
Yep.
just because of like Brad Pitt and Sam Rockwell literally look identical in the trailer. Like
Yep.
it really gave me that vibe. But I really do think it's going to be a great, fun film. Apple picked it up or like they're
Oh,
distributing it, so
I
it's an
didn't realize
Apple.
that.
Like the trailer actually is like Universal than Apple original films, which has me intrigued. They're doing the
Oh,
same
okay.
thing like with Killers of the Flower Moon that
Killers
they're
of the
doing like
Moon.
a week. So it kind of intrigues me from that aspect. It makes me think that there's probably something about this movie that's pretty special if they kind of expressed
Absolutely.
interest in it. But yeah, and then the next trailer, I guess, has the internet all up in a fury in the past few weeks, it seems like, because everyone loves the actor attached to it, but everyone's saying the trailer looks campy and dull and lifeless, even though the director of it directed one of film community's like favorite children's movies a few years ago. The movie in question is Wonka,
Yeah.
directed by Paul King of Paddington and Paddington 2 fame. As many people have mentioned, whenever anybody's like, "Oh my gosh, this guy directed Paddington," everyone's like, "The thing that made Paddington good wasn't the direction or the like anything like that. It was because it was just a good movie
Correct.
with good performances and like a fun time." Wonka,
Yeah.
on the other hand, looks so
Interesting.
weird.
It looks
Yeah,
interesting. Um, I don't know. Where I'm at on this movie is, for me, oddly, I don't know if you agree with this or not, but to me, Timothy Chalamet really has not missed on any of the projects he has chosen to be a part of.
yeah,
Um, and obviously, with such this is like such an important character for multiple generations of people. Like my mom,
yeah.
the original is like one of her favorite movies ever. Like
Hmm.
she grew up on that, she loves it. And I sent her this, and she watched the trailer. Like now, obviously, casual moviegoer with my mom, but she was like, "Oh, I'm absolutely going to watch that." So I'm wondering
Yeah.
if parents are like, "Yep, I'm in. I don't care. Like I don't like they don't care if it's good or bad, and they're in." Um, but to me, like I'm so in the middle on this because like for some ungodly reason, I have a gut feeling that it's either going to be really really bad or it's going to shock a lot of people and be really good. Like
Yeah.
there's not going
Yeah.
to be like a middle ground. And from what I've seen, like, and I'll take this for a grain of salt because like the leakers and the anonymous like test screen people that I follow on Twitter, like usually most of the time get it right, but not always, have said that this has been the people who have seen it say it's actually pretty good. Now again, take that with a grain of salt because that's a small amount of people. But to the people that have test screened it, apparently it's better than what the public, I guess, is perceiving it. It's going to be. So that gives me a little bit
Hmm.
of hope. It does.
Yeah. I also think that Christmas Day release or around
Yeah,
Christmas Day release probably helps the film
it
because
does.
everyone's like, "Oh, what are we going to watch with the family? Oh, Wonka."
Absolutely.
And I don't think there's much competition with this film in regards to like Christmas Day type movies, except
No.
Color Purple. But that's kind of a different kind of audience entirely, which we will get to that trailer in a minute.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that this is one of those films that works on paper, but I don't know in practice because watching the trailer, it looks like a like jumbled mess. I
It
can't tell
does.
what the tone is. I can't tell whether or not like I think Timothy Chalamet is overacting in some scenes. Like the whole thing that went viral on Twitter, quiet up and listen
Yeah.
down. Wait, no, scratch that. Like I that just made me like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Um and alarm bells kind of rang off because I really like Timothy Chalamet and I don't
Yeah.
want him to be in a bad movie. And
Right.
this is his first, I will probably cry. But yeah, I mean, I'll hold out hope. I don't, I don't know if I'm excited for it or not. Hugh Grant as an Oompa Loompa has me scared. I will say that. But other than that, I think everyone else in the cast is fine. I think they're going to be fun to watch, and yeah. So the next trailer on the list is one that is distributed by A24, and it's a very anticipated film for fans of The Bear because it stars Jeremy Allen White from The Bear and Zach Efron. It is The Iron Claw. Uh, so what are your thoughts on this first? I need to ask you because you're a fan of The Bear. So
I just recently finished rewatching The Bear, like for the first time since seeing it like in live, like rewatching it for the first time. And Jeremy Allen White is honestly like one of, in my opinion, one of the best actors working. Like I never watched Shameless. I never watched Shameless, so I can't really talk about like his early stuff. And I've heard a lot of people love him in Shameless, which is great, and that's awesome. Um, and I think just the way he acts in The Bear and the familial stability and what the story is surrounding him in The Bear, it's going to be a lot like what the family is like in the Iron Claw. Um, that gave me the vibe a lot because I feel like every single thing I see Jeremy Allen White in, his family is unstable at some point or shit's going on. Um, Zach Efron, good for him, bro. He looks absolutely yoked. I won't lie. He actually looks like he's giving this like a lot of reverence and very like he's taking it very seriously, which I enjoy. Um,
yeah,
overall, like again, like A24 hasn't really ever missed for me except for in a couple of movies. I'm genuinely very excited for this, and I'm not a wrestling person, and the wrestling people I've talked to are like, you are not ready for this story. Like apparently, like it's like one of the things of like the highest highs to the lowest lows, and like they're like,
yeah,
I'm not going to tell you what happens because like when you watch it, it's gonna be great. So I'm thinking with the cast that they have assembled, you know, A24 is backing it. There's no reason that this shouldn't be great to like really really good. So I'm very excited, and it also that's another Christmas Day ish time release as well. So
yeah,
that's another
yeah.
good thing that they're putting it out during that season because hopefully, um, I guess certain families, depending on if they're older, will probably go watch this during the Christmas season. So I'm excited to see what it has in store.
Yeah, same here. I've heard that the story is very sad, has me intrigued, and I am apparently not ready, according to Twitter.
Yeah,
We'll see, though, when Christmas comes around, whether I am or not. So, yeah, now we're going to shift from kind of a awards kind of baity movie to a animated movie because this list would be remiss without talking about one of the upcoming animated films releasing around the holidays. This one in particular has kind of the internet like Wonka having a discussion about the merits of artistic value in animated films because the company behind it is a very big name in the animation industry. And this offering seems very different in a kind of different way in comparison to some of their other work. It is Disney's Wish, releasing in November on, I think, a day before
I
Thanksgiving,
believe so.
actually,
Yeah.
which is the day last year that Strange World released, and that film bombed at the box office. So that has me kind of wondering about this film because, first off, my thoughts on the trailer are the animation style looks like garbage. They're trying to replicate the Spider Verse thing that few studios
Can do.
can do perfectly. DreamWorks exemplified they could do it with Puss in Boots last year, of course. I do not think that this film looks anything like the style that they're trying to go for. It looks like a rough draft of the film. Um, I don't like Disney films. I am a D23 member, but I don't like. I'm not going to sit here and say everything they've made is good. Strange World was one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So I'm not, I'm just sitting here. I do think it's interesting though because a lot of the argument in the past is that Disney's twist villains in their films are kind of stupid. Right off the bat in this film, you know that Chris Pine's character is the villain, just like old Disney movies. You kind of knew who the villain was going in, which has me intrigued. Ariana DeBose is attached. I think she's a great actress, but then like you don't do much acting in Disney
Right.
movies. So like, what are your thoughts on this? What do you think about it?
I'm in the same boat with you for the Disney stuff as I feel like a lot of people are. Um, I just feel like post COVID, they have just no idea what they're doing. It really shocks me because
Yeah.
before COVID, like they would have like one or two every couple of years. I'd be like, oh, okay, fish that to the side, but genuinely a great track record. But like since COVID, the only project that I've really loved, especially out of the animation and even just encompassing like all of it, like was Soul. And like obviously I didn't love Soul
Yeah.
that much, but like that felt
Mhm.
like a genuine Pixar movie that I would have watched in theaters if it wasn't COVID. Like Strange World, Lightyear, Luca, like Turning Red. Like I could keep naming and
Yeah.
naming projects that just did not resonate with audiences and were just genuinely not good movies and like not up to Disney's par. Like I feel like they're on a different level of echelon like when it comes to like critiquing movies obviously. Um and it just and this is just another representation to me of them just kind of putting stuff out to put it out. And I genuinely think unless we're proved wrong and this is like incredible and we have no idea, um that it's just going to be another Strange World type Lightyear situation where
Yeah.
that's like the families will not. I don't feel like families will bring the kids out to watch this. Just like they didn't do it
No.
with Lightyear, and they didn't do it with Lightyear, and they didn't do it with Strange World. And I have no reason for this to see this being like, oh, we gotta go take the kids to see Disney's Wish. Like, and the plot
Yeah.
just seems so dumb. No offense, the plot
It does.
actually seems like I could have wrote. Like, obviously, there's more to it, but like we could have wrote this. Like, we could have came up with this plot ourselves. Like, it's that simple of a plot too, with the most basic villain. That I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll end my rant on the Disney thing, but I just don't think this is going to go anywhere that they hope it does.
Also, not only just a kind of cringy villain, we have the horrible comedic relief in Alan Tudyk's goat character.
Yeah,
Yikes.
they're bringing back the
Um
animal relief, like from the
yeah,
'90s.
they are. It's so uninformed. Like they don't know what they're doing and it's obvious.
Right.
They had one stroke of luck a few years ago with Encanto and everyone kind of loved that
Yeah.
movie even though might some people didn't, including myself. But I they're just trying to like do the same thing over and over again. They're not doing anything different and it's going to kill them, I think,
Correct.
and they're going to probably get poor box office performance as a result. Um, but speaking of movies that are made for a certain kind of theater demographic, we had Wish made for kids movies. Now we're moving on to one of the most anticipated in the awards circuit, which is the new trailer for Color Purple just dropped, which is a new take on Steven Spielberg's original film. This one looks very, very good. I've seen the trailer nonstop, I think, in front of like every single movie I've seen in the past few
Yep.
months. So what are your thoughts on the trailer? I think it looks like a very well done drama. I think it looks heartfelt. I think it looks emotional and has great music. So yeah.
Yeah. I feel like this entire they just picked just a great group of people to do this story justice. Like Fantasia Barrino, I believe, is the woman that did it on Broadway, and they just brought her over and
Hmm.
just put her in, which I think is a great choice. Um, I've always liked Taraji P Henson, like when she takes serious roles, like when she's actually like, like not just there for comedic effect. I think she's a
Yeah.
really good actress. Like when she takes something serious, and then obviously Coleman Domingo is just awesome. I love him also.
Yeah.
Um, so I just feel like this is one of those things where it looks really good, but I wouldn't be surprised if some people feel like it's not done like to justice, because that was a lot of
Yeah.
criticisms with the first one. Um, just which kind of blows my mind. Like they're like with Steven Spielberg helming it, he was like, he's not the person to do this story. Blah 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 blah. And then depending on how you feel, I like the original Color Purple. I think it's really good.
Hmm.
But this is one of those just with musicals in the past 10 to 15 years. It also wouldn't surprise me if this ends up also just not being good either. Like it gives me no
Yeah.
indication of me that it should be bad, but just it's literally musicals are so hit or miss nowadays. It's either they're really good or people watch it once and they're like, damn, and just don't ever revisit it. So I'm really hoping it's not that, but I just gotta throw that out there that just a part of me feels like there's a world where this doesn't doesn't hit with audiences like it should, to me at least.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting when you mention musicals not performing well or being as good as they used to be, because another trailer on this list that we will talk about now, released before Eras Tour, it's based on a musical and confused the hell out of me when I first saw the trailer, which is Mean Girls. What the heck?
Yeah.
What the heck is going on?
Um,
What is going on?
I look. I don't know what the deal is with this movie. I knew it was originally, from what I've read into it, it was originally supposed to be a Paramount Plus release, and then
Oh
and then
no.
it got test screened, and people loved it, so that's why they pushed it to theaters. Which I don't know what the deal is, because I know the Broadway show that they're just pasting this from, like they're just because
Yeah.
Tina Fey wrote the Broadway one as well, um, is actually a hit to Broadway people. Like they really like it. Um, and Tina Fey's back. Um, oh, I'm blanking on the guy, but the guy that plays the principal in the original movie,
Tim
Tim
Meadows.
Meadows. There he is.
Yeah.
Tim Meadows is in it, and just like I don't think it's going to be like obviously like the first one is like a cultural moment. Like I feel like it's just like usually a lot of people like it, like or if they dislike it, it's not like they think it's awful. So I wouldn't be surprised if this does numbers just because kind of like the Taylor Swift effect of just like
Yeah.
everybody loves that Mean Girls movie. Let's just go watch it again, but with songs. So like
Yeah.
I don't know what if it's gonna be good or not. Will I watch it? Yeah, probably. Like, I won't lie. I probably will sit down and watch it. I really enjoy it. I love the original. Um, I think it just depends on the kind of person you are. But this also leans more towards the, makes 20 to 30 million, if that, first weekend, and then no one goes back and just waits till it's on streaming. Like that's what the vibe gives. That's kind of vibe this gives me. So I'm really like you said, just really really interested as to what the
Yeah.
demographic and what the amount of people's excitement level is for this. So
Yeah, it's kind of interesting they debuted the trailer before Taylor Swift
correct.
because that's a very similar demographic. And a
Absolutely.
lot of people, I think they're trying to do another Barbie thing where they try to attract the same audience. And I don't know if it's going to work or not,
Not sure.
but we'll see, I guess. But that's going to wrap it up for movie trailers. Now I want to focus on a few TV trailers of new TV shows that are dropping soon. So the first trailer for TV that I was going to discuss today is one that I actually knew about before it was announced. I got to preview and test screen the first two episodes. I was under NDA first when I first watched them, but I'm pretty sure that's up now. But I did watch it without VFX or anything, so it was an interesting experience. And this is a very VFX heavy show. It is Apple TV Plus's new show, Monarch Legacy of Monsters, which is the Godzilla show, kind of connected to the whole how do you call it, Kong verse or
Monsterverse.
whatever it is. Yeah, Monsterverse. That's it. That's
Yeah.
it. I don't. So when I watched it, I did not. I'd seen Godzilla versus Kong and King of the Monsters. But like for me, those movies are so lore heavy, but I don't care about the lore. I just want to see big monster fight.
Yeah.
So I don't pay attention to any of that lore. But this show, my main concern
Hmm.
is that it is so insistent that you know every single piece of lore from the movies. All these characters show up and all these plot points happen.
Right.
I'm just like, bro, no one's gonna notice this. No one's gonna know what that's referring to. So that's my main concern. I can't speak on whether or not it's a good show because I don't. It was a long time ago. But what are your expectations or thoughts about this? Are you excited?
Yeah, honestly, I really am. That 2014 Godzilla, we've talked about Gareth Edwards already once. Gareth Edwards,
Mm-hmm.
that was the movie he did before Rogue One, and that's what got him the Rogue One job, actually, was that movie, funnily enough. And I really, really enjoy that original one. I just think the way that he does scale, like like you feel like Godzilla is just this behemoth of a being. Like he's supposed to be, but like the way he makes you feel by
Mm-hmm.
shooting it, it's awesome. Um,
Yeah.
and in that OG, the 2014 Godzilla, he's only in it for like 15 to 20 minutes, but you feel like he's there the entire time. Just how it's shot and paced, which I think is great. Now on the
Yeah.
other hand, for Kong and King of Monsters and like Godzilla versus Kong, I'm not as high on those movies. Kind of like you said, I just want to see monsters fight, um, and that's really it. But this kind of gives me a little bit of hope because one, we talked about how Apple TV has lately just kind of known what they're getting and have picked really good things. So one, with Apple having it, that's a plus for me. Two, it actually looks like they put this is like movie budget for a TV show. Like if you've seen this trailer,
Yeah.
like Godzilla looks exactly like how Godzilla looks in the movies. Like they're not taming it at all, which I think is great because that was my main concern was when this was announced as a TV show is that it's if it's going to look shitty or not because obviously TV doesn't have the same budget, but with streaming and stuff now, again, we're in a new
Yeah.
landscape. So I'm really hoping that it, is really like really good, grounded, has good writing because, like I said, Apple's been picking and choosing instead of just picking everything up like they did when they started doing distribution. And what they have picked in the past couple of years to distribute has usually been good or great. So for me, after seeing the trailer and just looking at kind of like the time and dedication they put into it, I'm really excited to see what it does, and I hopefully to me it's really good.
Yeah. And then speaking of movies that have kind of translated into TV, this new Netflix property that we're going to talk about next had a small little trailer that released. The entire cast from the original film is attached. Very excited about the style they're going for because it's an anime of Scott Pilgrim versus the World. It still has Edgar Wright attached, I believe, has all the cast attached, returning, which is very impressive because I know they've talked a lot in the past. They have like an email chain from that movie that they still like connect on and stuff. I'm super down for this. I think Scott Pilgrim really lends itself to that style. But what do you think? What is kind of your take on this new take on it?
I'm probably going to shock a lot of people when I say this. I've never seen the original Scott Pilgrim. Yeah, Mitchell's losing his
Bro.
mind. Um,
Yeah.
Also, not that to me, not that Edgar Wright's a bad filmmaker or like he's not like good. He's just never like his movies have really just never like I want to go watch that. Like Baby Driver, I've seen once
Mm-hmm.
and I don't remember it at all. Like in
Yeah.
his other movies, not that they're bad, just they were never kind of like my cup of tea. Like I just didn't really like. Not that I didn't care, but like I never went out of my way to watch them. Now on the other hand, as Mitchell knows, I'm a big anime guy. I love anime. I think it's a really good medium for certain stories to be told. And when this got announced and the entire like Mitchell stated, the entire cast was coming back, I was like, okay, so they got something really good on their hands here. Obviously, they all think this is worthy enough to come back and do this for. So I definitely will definitely absolutely be watching Scott Pilgrim within the near future before this comes out because I am very intrigued and really do want to watch this. I really want to give it a shot because it spikes my interest a lot.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that when you're watching the original movie, you're going to notice how that style will definitely work because it does have the movie itself has an anime type style to it that really I think will translate well to the series. And the fact that the original cast attached really
Right.
is a testament to how much fun they probably had shooting that movie,
Yeah.
because you can tell. And like they did like a reunion cast
So
read, and
much.
like everyone showed up. It's like really really cool. But transitioning to another animated trailer, the last TV trailer we'll discuss today, it is a hit Amazon Prime TV show. Still haven't seen season 1 personally. I saw all like the clips and stuff like blowing up on the internet. I got it spoiled. I don't care.
No.
Um, yeah, I
Oh
got it
man.
spoiled because like the clip YouTube like channels literally put like the invincible
Invincible
clip
clip.
and then like
Yeah, it's
the
the end.
spoiler. I'm like,
Yeah.
bro, yeah, but we're gonna talk about season 2 trailer because a lot of people are very hyped about this. I have no personal feelings because
I
I haven't
I'm
seen
on
it,
the hype
but
train. I'm one of those people. The first season, which this is going to be crazy to say because I'm a junior in college and about to graduate, came out my senior year of high school. The first
jeez,
season came out. And COVID, obviously, there's a factor with that and delaying that. And the animation style for this is takes a long time. There's a lot of different
hmm
characters. The comics are very, very detailed and meticulous with what this is based on. But I don't. I haven't watched The Boys, and I know that's another Amazon Prime like superhero show that's like they kind of took it to the rated R level. You know, bloody, real world, like what a superhero
yeah,
show. Like if superheroes in real life were a thing, that's how life would be. And Invincible, basically, from my understanding of The Boys, is like the animated version of that, but is like with the people attached made it all the more incredible. Stephen Yeun is the main voice of Invincible. It was J.K. Simmons. God, I'm blanking now because I haven't watched that. I haven't rewatched in a while. But like the voice cast is crazy, and
hmm
the story really, really, really works. Because I just feel like it's not focusing on like the teenage tropes of like you know girlfriends, parties, stuff like that. It's more just about kind of like finding himself, and especially at the end of the first season. Um, no offense because you gotten spoiled. I'll say spoiler alert here. You can skip like 25 seconds if you don't want to hear it. With him having literally to kill his father, is a really, really, really interesting like cliffhanger. Like it literally, he just kills him, goes home, and the season ends. And that's where most Invincible fans, if they haven't read the comics, have been left. Which honestly, incredible on their part. So I'm really intrigued to see how that story progresses, especially his psyche, how he views like the world, like his world, and then the alien world where he came from, and just the animation again is one of those few kind of like Spider Verse that's just awesome and really can't be replicated. Like Amazon really found their niche with that. So again, really, really, really hyped. The first season was just great. So, and I'm thinking there's no reason it shouldn't pick right back where it left off when it comes out in November.
yeah. And speaking of comics, Robert Kirkman going for 2 for
Yes,
2
sir.
with the series, with that and The Walking Dead both being turned into hit TV shows. So good on him. Um, but yeah, I'll have to. I don't know. I don't want to watch the first season if I know how it's gonna
It's
end.
eight
But
episodes and it's short. If you give it a
yeah,
shot, I'm just saying you don't
yeah.
have to because you know how it ends. So it's kind of anticlimactic. But the end of the first
Well, like
episode's
the
nuts.
first spoiler, yeah, the first spoiler I got was the end of the first episode. I'm like, what
Well,
the
damn.
hell?
That's
And I'm like, yeah, and that was supposed to be like the
that's
biggest
the
shock
biggest
ever.
shock.
But like, I guess like the big thing to raise is that in our current culture with YouTube reactors like putting stuff like that in their thumbnails, it
It's hard.
really, really just annoys me to no end.
It's fair.
But um,
It's
yeah, I have heard great things about this series, and a lot of people love it, and so it's a very anticipated watch for most people. But yeah, it should be a hit. And that is going to do it for our trailer discussions. Now, to finish off the episode, we are going to get into our Letterboxd Last Four Watched, which is a segment where we talk about the last 4 films we have logged on Letterboxd, of course. So, Jacob, how about you take it away with your first pick for your last four
Let
watched?
me pull up the diary real quick because there's some documentaries that I've watched that I'm not necessarily going to count. Um, so you know what? I'll start off with my first pick. I know Mitchell's not a big horror guy, but Mike Flanagan recently just dropped his last project on his Netflix contract, and that's called the Fall of the House of Usher. And if you like Mike Flanagan's other work, especially his Netflix stuff and even Doctor Sleep, because I'm a really big fan of Doctor Sleep, this it's kind of like his magnum opus of like all of his Netflix mannerisms and like how he tells stories put into one big like one epic show. It's a mini series, basically kind of like Succession meets Succession's if it has paranormal elements to it, which is really really cool. And it basically just follows these two twins, brother and sister, that are the head of a pharmaceutical company, and all of the main guy's children start dying randomly, and you don't know why in the beginning, but obviously as it progresses, you find out, and it's based on the works of Edgar Allan Poe. So if you are like kind of in that spooky season mentality and really like horror movies, I would give this a shot. It's a quick 8 episodes. I finished it in about 3 days from when I started watching it, and it's just one of those shows that's like the heart, the direction, the editing. It's just all really really awesome. So that's my big recommendation, especially for the month that we're in. To just give his last project a shot if you haven't seen any of the other ones, because you don't really need to, but this would be the one I would recommend the most.
Yeah, I know Mike Flanagan did Doctor Sleep, which is a very big hit in the horror community, and also his like Netflix series have been very big hits. I personally didn't know. I knew what Fall of the House of Usher was because I'd seen it online, but I didn't know it was like a thing that he did. So that's very intriguing, and I'll definitely have to check that out. For my first pick, I'm going to pick a Coen Brothers film that I watched for the first time recently, which is Inside Llewyn Davis, starring Oscar Isaac. I gave this a 100 out of 100. I absolutely loved this film. It was so good, and it really just made me realize how important music is to Coen Brothers films. I kind of got a glimpse of that when I watched Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, because the music is a very big part, specifically folk music is a big part of their films for some reason. But yeah, it really just, they're such good storytellers. And I know a lot of people hate on this film because they're like, oh, there's no plot except something with like a cat running through the entire thing. But like, there's so much to this film that I don't think it needs like a definite plot. It's a nice slice of life about an honest, open discussion about depression and career uncertainty. And it's something that I think a lot of people can relate to. Justin Timberlake is a jump scare in this film. Wasn't expecting him. But yeah, it's his best performance since Trolls, so I'm not gonna cap on him too hard. But yeah, he did great work here. And Oscar Isaac, I think this is like one of his first roles, honestly. But it was very good. He's such a good actor, and I like him a lot. So it was a great watch. Once again, 100 out of 100. One of my personal favorites now. So it's a very good movie.
Yeah, Llewyn Davis also is one of my favorite films as well. I always find myself like rewatching that movie, like putting it on the background if I'm doing something, because I just enjoy it that much. And it might be shocking because like it is a really depressing movie, but like there's a lot of deep, like Mitchell said, a lot of deeper stuff behind that of kind of like how life, like how you should approach life and stuff. So that again, that's a great pick because I love that movie also. Before I put my next pick, I forgot to say it. Ah! You're good. I'll wait. You're good.
There we go. We vibing now.
All right, I'll start from the before. So, before I picked my
Okay.
next project, I forgot to do the score. I gave The Fall of the House of Usher as a series a 92 out of 100. It just kind of goes to show how much I loved it and thought it was really good. My next movie, kind of following suit with the theme of fall and like October and horror, I watched Kiyoshi Kurosawa's Cure from 1997. If you guys have never heard of this movie or know nothing about it, I would look up the basic plot synopsis and then watch it, because this is one of the best movies I've probably ever seen. It came out in 1997. It's from Japan, and it follows a detective in Tokyo trying to figure out a wave of gruesome murders is happening over the city, and each of them have like an X on their neck. That's kind of like a connection to each of them. And I don't want to spoil it because the twist and the reasoning for that and the diving in of like the psyche and psychological stuff is just incredible to watch. And I'm surprised I haven't watched this sooner, because so many people I know, especially my boss at the at the theater absolutely adores this movie. And I gave it a 93 out of 100. It's just one of those movies that right from the first 5 minutes you're engrossed. Like you're just locked in for the entirety of the runtime. And as you kind of peel back the mystery of what's going on, it kind of blows your mind. Um, my best way to compare it for people that kind of, I guess, want to give a vibe, it's kind of like Lost Highway by David Lynch, but not as, I would say, not as like in your face and like that Lost Highway is kind of a lot in some instances, but the story of like and the themes are a lot like Lost Highway for Cure. So if you're a fan of David Lynch stuff or just have heard of this movie and never gave it a shot, I would absolutely at some point during this kind of like fall holiday season give it a watch because it's really 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 good.
Yeah, another friend of mine who's really into film just watched that actually, and I saw it on his Letterboxd, and then you reviewed it. I'm like, oh, what the heck? But yeah, I definitely need to check that out. I've heard so many good things about it, so I'm really excited for that. For my next pick, I actually had to go through my list and see what I watched at the Chicago International Film Festival over the last few days because I did watch a lot. My first film of the festival was one that literally has the scariest Letterboxd page of all time. Not even any cover art or anything. 85 reviews. Just like it's the most like the
That's
most
scab.
blank thing ever. And then it's called The Hypnosis or Hypnosen in Swedish. It is directed by Ernst de Geer and it stars Herbert Nordrum from The Worst Person in the World and Asta August. I think that's how you pronounce her
Yeah.
name. I love Worst Person in the World. It's one of my favorite films of all time. So I saw Herbert Nordrum was in it, and I'm like, I gotta book that. It didn't sell out, which is rare for Chicago screenings, and I was like, I wonder why. And then I'm like, oh wait, never mind. It's because it's a Swedish film in like the early morning hours. A quick, breezy runtime of 98 minutes. It's about a couple that goes to a startup competition to promote their business, and the lady it has so much anxiety that she goes under a hypnosis therapy, and things go hilariously wrong. After that therapy, she's like a changed person entirely. Very, very funny in a way that is very European. It's not American humor. It's very European. If you don't like that type of humor, you're not going to probably laugh at this. But I liked it. It was very funny, a very easy watch. That ending is probably going to sit wrong with a lot of people because it has some very dangerous connotations to our current society today, and it was very concerning. But overall, I don't think that was the filmmaker's intent at all. I think it was just kind of like, oh, we're playing this off for
Right.
laughs, but it could definitely rub people the wrong way. I gave it a 75 out of 100, perfectly serviceable, nothing special, but fun. So.
Yeah, I did want to check that out. Because also I am a sinner, I guess, of a cinephile because I have not seen The Worst Person in the World yet, and I need to. I know a lot of people are like, "What the hell?" Trust me, I'm going to get to it. I'm going to say by the end of the year. I know that's a long time, but I do want to try and get to it sooner than that. But I'm giving myself to the end of the year to watch it, and if not, I'm gonna. That's a problem. So yeah, I'm whenever this. Hopefully, I'm assuming is this picked up by a distributor yet, or is it kind of a streaming? We
It
don't
is
know. We
not.
don't know. Okay. Well, if it does come out and I'm able to see it, I definitely would give it a watch because I kind of, like you said, European humor is very funny to me, like the type of stuff that you were telling me about. So again, I'm intrigued by that a lot. Um, my third movie that I have chosen, um, this might, depending on the person, might sound a little weird, but this is also one of my favorite movies of all time. I try to watch it every fall since I watched it for the first time, and that was When Harry Met Sally. I This is to me like besides like the Before trilogy is like one of the like a perfect rom com. It really is like, and so many early to late '90s films kind of just try to copy and paste and do what it did, and none of them, to me at least, ever fully got like to that level. I just think Rob Reiner, especially in this, it's directed by Rob Reiner. Like his elements and the way his style works perfectly for this type of movie. I feel like he's really able to like get you to care about characters very quickly in a short amount of time, and wanting the best for both of them. And immediately within this, when this starts, Meg Ryan and Billy Crystal's chemistry is literally off the charts. Like it's so good, and the way they play off each other is awesome. And you have so many iconic scenes, like from the diner or the I like the if you know when you love someone, you want to start your life right away types like quotes. Like this movie's quotable as hell. It's literally perfect for fall. It's a really awesome love story, and it's I love it a lot. It's a 90 out of 100 for me. And just it's just one of those movies that's just a classic that I really resonated with, and hope if you haven't seen it, give it a try because it's the perfect time to watch it right now.
Yeah, that's actually on my fall watch list, but I need to get around to it. It's like apparently a
Yep.
classic. So I'm really excited for that. So the next film on my last four is another film from the Chicago International Film Festival. It is A24's Dream Scenario, starring Nicolas Cage, directed by Christophe Borgili. It was so funny. This film is one of the best comedies of the past year, easily. It's one of Nick Cage's best performances. I don't know if you saw the interview where he said that he has like a list of like 5 or 6 scripts that he said are like the best he's ever read, and this is one of them. Like this is one of his favorite scripts he's ever read, and it's easy to see why because it is so good.
Mhm.
And it's so timely too, because I'm not going to spoil anything or give anything away because a lot of surprises here are so great. But the way it explores fame is so accurate and so it just makes you look at our current culture and people today and you're like, oh my gosh, it's like call back to them. Direction's capable, very funny, very everyone's kind of in to this, and I gave it a 95 out of 100. And laughing at this with a packed theater was absolutely hilarious and fun, and yeah, so
That's one of my most anticipated for the rest of the year, especially when that first trailer came out about a month ago. You know, the premise is awesome, and then it also used the Cranberries as its trailer song, which I freaking
yeah.
love. Also, so from what I've heard from you and just everybody else that's been able to see it, I'm really, really, really excited for that. So I hope I am on the same level as you eventually when I see it. Um, and my last pick for the Letterboxd four is um is a movie that is in my top 15 of all time. The first time I watched it, completely like I don't even know the words. Like it resonated with me. I fell in love with it, and I rewatched it recently because I just wanted to watch it again. And that's Makoto Shinkai's Your Name. If you haven't heard of it, it is an anime movie from Japan. It came out in 2016, and I don't want to spoil too much away because the twists and the end of the movie is freaking blew my blew my socks off to say the least. It's basically it's the story is two high school teenagers, a boy and a girl, find themselves switching bodies every other couple days. Um, and it just again because I don't want to give anything away, but the Freaky Friday aspect, um, part it like also combined with there's another aspect it combines this Freaky Friday sequence with that kind of just it's it's really well done. It's very interesting. I didn't think that's where it was going to go, and it plays a lot on history and your perception of memory and if you're connected to like people through time and stuff like that. So if you've never heard of it, have never watched it, or not even an anime fan, this was one of the movies I watched that kind of like gave me like, yeah, anime is just like animation in the same realm as not just a genre, it's a medium, because of how much it touched me and the story and the characters and the writing is just top notch. And my God, the animation also is insanely well done as well. As most movies lately out of Japan, especially Shinkai's movies, because I watched the rest of them after I saw this, are incredible. So if you kind of just want a really really good, this is a tearjerker. I won't lie. It's sad. It really hits you. But I would recommend anyone that I know and or meet. This is one of the movies I recommend them to watch if they haven't seen it. So if you have time, absolutely give it a watch because I love it very very much, and it's 100 out of 100 for me. Perfect movie in my eyes.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people seem to love that movie. So yeah, it's a very interesting movie. Um, Inadvertently, we both picked an anime for our last kind of pick on our list. At Chicago, my last film of the Chicago International Film Festival was Hayao Miyazaki's newest film and last film, hypothetically, maybe I don't
Hypothetically.
know. Um, Boy and the Heron, which was How Do You Live, but they renamed it quite fittingly because How Do You Live is probably not going to be the best title for an American release. But I think this kind of fits perfectly. I gave this 100 out of 100. I know people seem to be split on it. I think it is personally Miyazaki's best work besides Princess Mononoke. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not a big Miyazaki fan. I'm one of the people that can't stand Spirited Away. I don't like how his
True.
films, most of his films at least,
Yeah.
don't have a set plot. It's just random events happening. And there's never been a more overt example of that than this film. It's very much like Spirited Away in that plot structure, like where it's just like weird things happening. But the way, I'm not going to spoil it, but the way it all ties together is so fitting, and it just comes together in the end, which is what I was yearning for Spirited Away. I'm like, please let this make sense, but it never did. This one ties everything together, and it feels like a complete film of his, and it really just makes a lot of sense. And this is truly his swan song. Cannot think of a better note to end out on. It's funny, it's emotional, it's hilarious, it's timely, it's engaging. The animation is absolutely mind-boggling in certain sequences. Um, yeah, I know there's no trailers or anything. People don't want it spoiled, so I'm not going to say anything else. I'm just going to say go see this whenever it's releasing. It is a truly special film. So
I do gotta ask because this reminds me a lot of the like. This isn't really a plot question, but like it reminds me a lot of Spirited Away, and the fact is this too weird to be nominated at the awards, or do you think it's a Spirited Away where it's just so good, even though it's so weird that it just kind of pushes through? But what are your thoughts on that? Because I'm intrigued to know what it's kind of if it has awards attention to it.
see, and that's what I think is kind of interesting about the film is that there's a lot of things that come from like different films of his, like influences. Like Spirited Away is a major influence on this film, and also it reminded me of Totoro a lot.
Okay.
And it also reminded me of Mononoke in the way like it actually does have kind of a plot, which was very interesting. Um, so it's kind of a mashup of all those films. I wouldn't say it's too weird. I
That's
do
fair.
think a lot of the concepts are complex, and I think that a 2 hour runtime is probably not enough to fit it in. It does feel rushed in the end. It does feel like you need a little bit more room to breathe, but it does present the ideas in a way that's very easy to follow. I really do think it probably deserves the Oscar, in all honesty. I think it's probably the best animated film of the year. I don't know if it's going to get the same reaction as Spirited Away, only because, like, I don't know. People might not like the ending. I'm not going to say what it is, of course, but
Right.
people might not like that.
Okay.
So I think Miyazaki, if it is truly his last film, give it to him,
Okay.
please. I know Spider Verse releases here, but Academy, please, I'm
And
begging
Spider
you,
Verse has another
Miyazaki.
movie too, so they can kind of like Return
Yeah,
of the King it and just give it all the awards for the
yeah,
last
yeah,
one. So if that's the case, again, I agree with you wholeheartedly. If it's true that if it's his last one, he
yeah,
absolutely deserves, especially with everything he's done for animation and just film in general, they should give it to him. But that's good to know. I'm intrigued to see. Like again, like you said, going in blind was the best, and I'm going to keep it that way. But I was wondering if it had
yeah,
that awards prospects or not.
yeah. All right, so that was our Letterbox last four watched, and that's also the end of our episode. Thank you guys so much for joining us for this exciting discussion. Be sure to follow us on our podcast hosting platforms Spotify, Amazon Music, and Apple Music. As always, if you are watching this on YouTube and you're seeing our videos, please be sure to subscribe, like the video, comment down below, turn on push notifications.
Absolutely.
With that being said, though, this has been a very exciting episode. Thank you guys so much for joining us, and we will see you in the next episode.
Bye, guys.